talked about the benefits of Belt and Road before. Let me just say that there are 4 risks that I see. I think the first risk is the one that Parag alluded to, and that's the one that a lot of people are focused on. The risk of indebtedness, of countries taking on more debt on the continent than they can afford. And there is a problem now on the continent of the issue of debt and transparency of numbers. So there's a real issue. You talked about the HIPC, about when the Highly Indebted Poor Countries Initiative, where African countries, low-income countries all over the world got some debt forgiveness, and that enabled them to be able to grow. Instead of using money to service that, they could invest it, and African countries benefited. So from 2006, I think the debt to GDP ratio on the continent fell to 26%, which was very good. But if we look at it now, it's at about 48% now, debt to GDP ratio. So we're moving in a direction that is not so good. And some countries, like about 6 or 7 countries, have really high debt to GDP ratios. 94%, 71. We've got Zambia, we've got Ethiopia, we've got several of the countries across Togo. We could look at them across the board. But suffice it to say that on the continent, that issue is a problem, and we really need to watch it. But the issue is we shouldn't all think it's all Chinese debt. For some countries, it's mainly Chinese debt. Okay, Zambia, Ethiopia, like I said, Angola. But it's not all. So many countries have also gone to the Eurobond market and added that debt. But what I would say from the Chinese side is, one, to be careful, because if countries already have taken on some Eurobond debt and other types of debt, and you load on this other at commercial rates, then they're going to have problems, and that's already becoming an issue. And for us as a continent, having gone through HIPC, we need to be very careful and look at what we're negotiating and taking on. And I think that the Chinese are very reasonable. As someone who negotiated, just before I left office, about $1 billion for construction of 4 airport terminals, light rail in Abuja and Abuja-Kaduna Road, I think they are very reasonable. So debt and debt transparency, one. The second risk, let me move quickly, is a risk that we may not benefit from some of the investments if we don't have the right policies. So if we're trying to create trade corridors, Vera mentioned the AFTCA, or was it Parag? The Africa Continental Free Trade Area is obviously one benefit we could have, and Chinese investments could help us connect through Belt and Road. But if we don't have the right policies for trade facilitation, if at the borders we're still stopping trucks, and checking so many times, if we don't do away with those, if we don't even have the right macroeconomic policies, just having the infrastructure there is not going to really do us good. So we need to look at that risk of right policies.